We are live. Thank you to everybody that's tapped in. You are listening to the He Nuh Show on WINN Media 98.9. And today is Sunday, February 5th. And as usual, in studios with us, well, I am Alonzo Alexander, and my co-pilot, co-captain is ATIBA Byron. And we are joined in studios by two creatives, two young men, two gentlemen that are deeply entrenched in the performing arts. These men skillful, willfully so. Today we are joined by Zoo and Patrick. Patrick, double up. Patrick was here last week.
Too easy.
Yeah,
To everybody that was
So nice had to do it twice.
Yeah, straight.
Definitely.
So, you know what I mean? They're back. And as we would have indicated last week on the show, there is a big energy that's kicking off on the 12th of February called Fragments of Love. I gotta say I love that name, same way.
Yeah, give thanks.
Yeah. Fragments of Love. And it's hosted by Zoo and Friends.
Yeah, man.
Right. And Patrick is one of the best artists. I wanted to say guest artist, but I guess he's one of the best. So he's one of the guest artists. And you know, we just gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about love. We're gonna talk about the show that they have put on. I think Patrick can do a little poetry for us. Hopeful, fingers crossed.
No problem.
We're gonna see how the thing go. Yeah. So I mean, Zoe, what's up? What's good,
Yeah,
dude?
man. Everything solid, man. Everything good. Just giving thanks. Blessed afternoon to the ladies, the gentlemen, everybody that's listening online right now. Everything solid, man. Just preparing for the event. Just trying to get the word out there more and more every day. You know, different kind of scene right now. So this is outside the artist mode now, promoter mode. You know, we got still. Yeah.
Patrick was good.
Can't complain, fam. Back here again. Pleasure to be with the guys once more. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm looking forward to chopping it up again.
Yeah, for sure. You know, so when we had the show last week and we talked about Fragments of Love, when I got off the air, I went to WhatsApp messages. When I get into the office, everybody telling me, yo, that should look like you're going to be crazy. You know, and I think what I was thinking about is the acoustic vibe.
Yeah.
The acoustic vibe is necessary.
Definitely.
Because I think acoustic, as opposed to pre-recorded or recorded music, has a different sonic vibration.
Yeah, man.
I mean, if the man them register that same
sure.
way,
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
it's a different sonic vibration. And it's a little bit more intimate somehow. I don't really know how to articulate the intimacy that's involved in an acoustic set.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's so organic. There's a kind of visceral feel that comes from that. You know what I mean? It's like the communication is unfiltered by the music and the
For sure.
the polishing that comes from a studio recording or wherever it is.
Yeah, man.
The
You're on
mixing
point.
You're
on point.
Digital mastery of it. The outtake.
For me, when you see, so before we had everything, we had drums, right? And we had people playing live drums. We never recorded drums. So we had beats and we had music before we had recording. So for me, acoustic night live band is taking it back to the essential element of musical creation and musical representation. So with recorded music or studio music, you have, pre-recorded sounds being played from a computer, soundboard, or whatever the case may be. But in an acoustic night now, live music, no music can be created except for if the musicians are making it right there and then. So I think the connection to that and the communication that is transmitted through that live music experience is something completely special and different.
Yeah.
You know, when I picture this event, I picture something like Just Boss TV.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the aim. Okay. We're gonna be missing out next week, man.
Tiny desk.
A tiny desk.
Yeah.
MPR.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the vibe right there.
That's the vibe.
Yeah, that's the whole energy.
Okay.
As you say, is needed. You know what I'm saying? I think it's good for the industry also, the entertainment industry. I think some people had acoustic vibe before. I think they had like Infamous one time at Vibes Beach Bar and what's not. But this one is an actual like event now. Like it's just not like we ain't just pulling up somewhere and
No, it's a full production.
it's a whole different type of time.
How
intentionality.
How long is each artist like segment?
I think everything is just down to your material and what you're trying to push. for me, you know, is Fragments of Love event, so I probably gonna go a little longer. But everybody can probably do the least 20 minutes.
Nice.
The least.
So let's touch on the name though. What that really represents? What's the meaning of that? Fragments of Love.
Well, first of all, for people who don't know, is that name came from my EP that I dropped in 2019. When I was creating that project, I was basically thinking about the different aspects of love, the different scenarios, the different situations. People love differently. So I might talk to ATIBA and he might be like, yo, I was in a situation where love for me was communicated to anger. And I might talk to Patrick and Patrick might say, man, love for me when I either fall in love or was in love at that time was peaceful. And for you, you might be, I couldn't understand it. You know what I mean? You had no understanding. So for me, Fragments of Love is just basically breaking down different aspects that I've experienced along with other people's relations as well.
Okay. So, you know, I've always had this thought process, right? I feel like loving somebody and being in love with somebody is two distinctly different things.
Yeah.
So before I talk about how I feel about it, Patrick, how you feel about that? About loving and being in love?
Oh, I completely agree with that. I think to have love for somebody is very different than to be in love with someone. I think that also to build up onto Fragments of Love. When I think of love, love is everything. Love is me taking time out to come, you know, have this conversation with y'all. That's love. You know what I'm saying? Love is waking up in the morning and going to work so you could feed your children. That's love. You know, so those are also fragments of love.
Definitely.
And so when I think of love, I'm like, okay, I have love for the things that I want to achieve. I have love for the people who I care about in life. It doesn't mean that I'm in love, but it means that I have love, and I have love inside of me for those people and for those things that I want to achieve. So love is not just, I want to move away from just thinking of it in the romantic sense, in the relationship sense, and think of it as a more holistic thing where love should be brought into every conversation, every mindset that you move forward with. You should take love into account.
But how is that any different from, let's say, something like attachment, attraction, or desire?
I think there's a certain level of, altruism. So altruism is basically wanting the best out of a situation, but not necessarily only for yourself, but for the other people as well.
Right.
So like if I could be attracted to somebody and I want something from them, or they may want something from me, but I don't necessarily have their best interest at heart. I have my best interest at heart because I have attraction or lust or whatever the case may be. But love now is like, no, I want to see good things happen for you. I want you to be in a positive space. I want to bring peacefulness and happiness and addition to your life rather than just what I could get out of it.
Okay, I got you. So, what's your take on it?
Pretty much the same, what Patrick was saying. I feel like a lot of times, as Patrick said, a lot of things could just be lust. Sometimes you think you love somebody, but, you know, you don't necessarily love them.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? You just, as Patrick said again, you just like something about them, and it could just be for self-gratification. You check what I'm saying? So I can't really expound too much more about what Patrick said, because he said a lot, but I'm on the same vibe.
And you're rocking with the same frequency, Tibo?
Yeah, I think that, you know, love and being in love is two different things. I think in love comes off a little bit with a little bit more romantic essence to it.
Yeah.
But that in itself is still encapsulated by love, and you wanted to see that person. You should want to see that person win. The attraction part and the desire part is a little bit different. You know, it could be a little bit more destructive energy, because it's just you see something and you're sexually attracted to that person, but you're not really attracted to that person. It's just like one thing that kind of pulls you towards that person, right? And after you don't get that one thing, like Lauren Hill said, You know, that's one thing. Once you get that one thing, that's it, usually.
So it might be desire. You
Might
have
be
a particular desire for a thing,
Yeah.
for an experience.
Fun experience.
And once you get that, that's brought full circle, everything fade.
Yeah, like once you get your experience, it kind of fade. You know, you absorb the experience, but then after that, you just kind of like just fizzle out.
Yeah, but you know, for me, even in a romantic sense, when I think about love and being in love, I think all of the concepts come and coalesce into the one idea. But for me, it's like sometimes you meet, let's say, okay, so we are all heterosexual. We meet a girl, right? And you're vibing, the energy building, and you might tell her, I love you. I love you. I do love you. I have deep feelings for you, but I'm not in love with you, right? And I had that conversation with somebody recently. The distinction between being in love and loving, right? Because I feel like when I'm in love with you, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
This is the point in time now where I would never cheat. You know what I mean? I would never do anything at all to violate you. So I want your ultimate good. Whatever is in your best interest is what I want when I'm in love with you. When I love you now, you know what I mean, it's a little bit more gray area there. We could kind of play with a little bit more things. So I might love you and still be able to see somebody else and form like a real attraction to them and build up vibes with somebody else. So the two things could run concurrently.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're in love, you can't do that.
I think it's also very difficult. I mean, there are certain people who may feel like that's possible for them, but I think generally speaking, it's very difficult to be in love with multiple people at the same time.
Yeah.
I think you could have love for mad people,
Yeah.
but in love is like, it's difficult to be in love with multiple people at the same time. Because the time and attention and sacrifice and vulnerability that is required to get
The
to that
shared
level.
resources,
Yeah,
everything,
the share is just difficult. It's different.
Yeah, it's a depth of concentration.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's like just concentrated emotion, concentrated energy where everything pumped into this one
Yeah,
thing.
because even sometimes you might fall in love with a person, and you might even hear your friends start saying, but I don't even see you around anymore. The girlfriends might say, yeah, you ain't got time for me, type of thing. But it's actually you kind of concentrating on that moment, you know what I mean? And you're in love, so everything kind of get absorbed in that moment.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't even recognize it.
Yeah, that's the thing, you don't recognize it, it's happening.
You're blinded by
Yeah.
it. You're blinded by it. So, you know what I mean? And I had this conversation again where, you know, sometimes, at least for me, my experience has been when I was youth growing up, I used to hear songs and the songs would talk about certain things, you know what I mean? Certain experiences. Love is blind. And, bro, I used to feel like all them things is joke things until you really fall in and then it's like, whoa.
Deep end.
Yeah, man, you listen to a song now with different ears.
Yeah,
You know what I
facts.
mean? Everything resonating differently. Like, yo, why you she know what she's saying? She look like she touching me personally. You know what I mean? So, I mean,
man.
the emotion is such a deep emotion. One of the things I also considered, and I kind of want to know how the man them feel about it, is this concept of unconditional love. Because we hear about it all the time. I don't necessarily believe that there's any form of love that's unconditional.
I do. I feel like God love is unconditional.
Okay.
Check. Outside
That's a
of
good
that,
one.
Outside of that,
So let's regulate it to just the physical realm, like
okay.
the space that we could control.
Yeah, it's missed it because even okay, let's put it this way. Let's just say your parents might have
True.
unconditional love for you, but it still might be a condition.
Yeah, so ain't unconditional.
You know what I mean?
No,
Because-
once there's a condition, it can't be
Yeah,
unconditional.
facts. You check, so it's like it mystics still. Like I feel like sometimes people always want what they want. You check what I'm saying, and like something when you can't get that from that person, like conditions involved.
Yeah,
now.
man, it shift the shift the vibe.
So it
Even,
tough.
even with your parents, because let's look at it. You have a youth, right? So the love between a parent and a child should be unconditional, and I think children could love unconditionally up to a certain point, right? But I think once consciousness comes into the picture, once you get that consciousness of surroundings and environments and things and you know what I mean happenings. Yeah, the unconditional part of love now, because it becomes a filter. You start to filter things to your emotions and how you feel in any given moment,
Yeah.
right? So even like a parent would love their child immensely. Yo, I love my youth with everything that's within me. But there are things that you could do that could shift that love.
No,
You know what I
definitely.
mean? Like, how you gonna tell me my son is a 15-year-old and he raped somebody 8-year-old daughter? Bro, man, I love you the same. I see you different. Like, what you spend the rest of your life in jail?
Like going back to have
But,
love versus love as a as a statement. So like, say for example, that case in point, right? That parent might have to distance themselves away from that individual or whatever, but they will have love for them from a distance, you know, rather than just like, they might not be able to be like, okay, like, man, supporting my child in what they're doing, and then they
that's
deeply
condition. That's a condition.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's not. Me personally, I don't believe in unconditional love.
But the thing is, some parents would actually defend their child.
For sure.
So you like that's like. You might not do it, but you got a parent that can defend it. How much dudes you got know on the streets doing things and the parents defend
That's
them?
true.
But then is it love?
Well,
Could bleed into a lot of other things.
It could bleed into a lot of other
Facts.
things.
Ego,
That deep.
pride.
Facts.
Yeah.
So the love mystic when it comes to unconditional, like, I think the more intimate you get with somebody, the more conditions comes, because like we know each other and it's our love. So ain't really no conditions. So anything I do ain't really affecting you. So anything you see me is our love.
Yeah.
But then if we start to get like closer, then you know, and let's say it comes to a point where sharing resources, then a condition kind of start coming in, right?
Right.
And then if I falter one moment, it could change your perspective.
Oh, definitely.
So as the more intimacy, as the more intimate you get, the conditions start to roll in.
Yeah, you come back
Yes.
to that point about consciousness, because you know conscious of a lot more things, right? You got a lot more extenuating circumstances, a lot more things that you're going to view that layered on top of that relationship. So
Definitely.
while initially I flip like, yo, I just seen Patrick every now and again. Patrick is my brethren. I seen the representation of Patrick, and I love that representation. Like, yo, dude, solid. But once you get close, and you realize like, okay, but yeah, Patrick is this type of man. Patrick that argue about these things.
Yeah.
Those are no additional conditions that layered on top of the connection that you have.
I might
And
see
now
it different.
yeah, you gotta reassess all these things.
Yeah.
You know,
right? So love is love heavy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, the thing to it, intimacy, as you get more intimate, is like a thin line between love and hate. You know what I mean? So you gotta be so careful of it.
Passion.
Yeah. And then you start to deal with stuff like your attachment levels, because if your attachment is supposed to be at least like a level 1 to maybe 3 maximum. But if your level's at number 5, where you become more like a fanatic and stuff like that, like you remember the lady Selena, and I think she manager or something had a killer, right?
Yeah.
But that manager had love her, but to the point she attachment levels was way too high, right? So it's almost like she, you know,
Unhealthy.
unhealthy.
But here's the crazy thing about that. The attachment isn't even really the issue, you know. Is the expectations that come with the attachment.
But that,
Because I'm attached to you, now I expect you to do these things.
Right.
no, well, the level of the attachment is the issue, because you're gonna be attached, but it's just how you attached.
Yeah, just the level.
Just the
towards
level
it.
of the attachment. So the attachment really kind of is it, but the level of the attachment.
No, I kind of disagree, because you got some people who they attach deeply, but then the temperament is such that they would just internalize whatever they're feeling.
So maybe
But that's
maybe
what
that's
I-
just an individual thing.
That's
now
what.
then.
Yeah. And
So the expectation now push you to that kind of length. Like,
But you
yo,
see,
you got
the-
these expectations of me.
well, okay, from I kind of had read a book about the 5 levels of attachment, and what you're saying with the temperament is almost like a level 3, but you could kind of decipher. But some people so blinded by their attachment
That they can't regulate.
They can't regulate, so they would think that force. Even killing somebody, and it's almost like I only doing this because I love you. You know, some parents used to beat you and tell you that too. I only doing this because I love you, but some you getting licks for nothing. But attachments are heavy. It's just like they can't.
I agree with Lonzo in a sense though, because I think you could be so, like, my opinion is that, like, if you're a level 5 attachment to somebody, you could present itself in one of 2 ways: either complete codependency or the type of aggressive attachment that you're talking to, depending on the temperament. If it's somebody who is naturally more of a calm and docile person, that over attachment would probably represent itself more in terms of always wanting to be around, always clingy, you know, unable to make a decision without the consent or approval of the other person, stuff like that, being like feeling unable to do your day-to-day living without the other person's
That's number
approval.
5 too.
Right.
Yeah, that's number 5 too.
But that's not necessarily violent, but it's
No.
also very unhealthy.
Yeah, no,
but
yeah.
sometimes it can present itself as being
But see,
violent for those
that-
people whose temperament
yeah,
is more
it's more
agitated.
yes, but it's still
no,
it's still the same thing, because
toxic.
it's almost like a psychological abuse
No, for sure.
versus a physical
For-
abuse.
yeah.
So it's the same exact like level 5.
But the crazy part about that now, if the 2 persons involved has the same level, then it won't come across the way to either one of them.
That's true.
to
to a certain extent.
What,
I think
what at the same level of
like
attachment?
level 5,
Yeah.
both them level 5.
They're both
Cause,
very
yeah,
codependent to each other. It
What
could be
the word be now? Toxic?
That's
what
it,
people
toxic.
say?
Yeah.
That's
So
people
it's
call it
like,
toxic.
it's like two of them like that now.
Yeah.
Like, but when I do this, but she running after me with a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she like
And
it now.
but you see them heavy toxic relationships though, where it's like you cheat and I cheat back and
They ain't going nowhere still.
Yeah,
everybody-
no, no.
fight
Just
somebody,
cheating
get
to try-
hospitalized.
they're
and-
cheating to try and get some sort of reaction,
Reaction.
out of it or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, you
That's
know what I
toxic.
mean, come on, listen. The connection between human beings, right, has so many layers, so many dynamics that I personally feel like we could spend our entire lives attempting to get to know somebody
Yeah.
and never really know that person.
Facts.
Never really know that person because you're with them for 15, 20 years. And then you see them do something and you're like, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it's a function of people evolving as well.
Definitely. I was just about to say that. Like,
Yeah.
Like if you met me 5 years ago and we're together today, it might not be the same. Like, you might, a small thing for instance, you might meet me as someone who don't like to go out. 5 years later, I feel like I need to get out because I've been inside for so long. I need to like free up and get some fresh air, meet new people and network and do this and do that. And then that might be an issue for your partner and, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. I just using that as an example because I just feel like people wake up 5 years, 2 months, 10 years from now, totally different.
Yep.
Sometimes ain't even in love with their partner no more.
Yeah.
Because now it's like they're seeing things on a whole different level. How like these things happen.
And for me, love. The other thing I wanted to say about unconditional love is to me the other reason why I struggle with the idea of unconditional love is because love in and of itself is a condition. Love is the condition. Love is the byproduct of the conditions being met by the other person and you meeting their conditions as well.
Because they gotta look a certain way.
Right.
Move a certain way.
Right. And once they're meeting those conditions, then that creates the love that then is the byproduct of that.
So love is reactionary.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, got some woman on the tell some man ain't got no conditions, right?
That ain't love.
No.
That's something else.
Yeah, that's a whole different scenario.
It's the next thing again you're gonna talk
That's a
about.
whole different scenario.
That ain't love.
Listen, he ain't understand those, he ain't got no conditions.
But I mean,
Trust me.
I mean, so what? You know, as we kind of delve a little bit deep into love, right? What has been your experience with love? Because that is heavy, and I think we all look at love differently. We all experience love differently. What has been your experience with love?
In terms of what?
Well, intimate love.
I think that for me, I've been incredibly fortunate and sometimes unfortunate in terms of love. I've met people along the way who I've attached myself with and, fallen in love and had very positive and good relationships. And just throughout the course of life, you kind of go away from someone or things don't work out in whatever way you want them to. And that's okay. And then sometimes, I've fallen for somebody and it's been a terrible situation. And I really want to go to India, but I in love. I can't move so easy. You gotta slowly piece yourself away from that situation so that you could, bear yourself for the impact. And that's always a tough one to be in. But at the same time, but at the same time, you gotta do what's good for you at the end of the day, So I've been fought, but I appreciate those instances though. Like looking, obviously not in the moment, but looking back now, I'm like, okay, like I'm glad that I had that experience because it teach me how to move and what I need to do to respect myself and to value myself.
Always lessons embedded in it.
Yeah,
For sure.
So, what's been your
For
experience?
sure. Yeah, same. I had good and bad, you know what I'm saying? But I think for me, at this present moment in my life, I feel like everything that I've been through helped me to stand in love rather than fall in it. So basically, I still need to have a grasp on my mind, my mental health, the way I deal with things. Because the thing about it, emotions, you get caught up in emotions and you start saying things you don't mean, you start doing things. You start doing things. So for me, I felt like, okay, although I care about you on this level, I still need to maintain who I am as an individual. Love
Yeah.
changes people.
Yeah, you could lose yourself too.
You could lose yourself
You
in
could
the
lose
process. You check what I'm saying? So I feel like for me, I just, at this point, everything that I've been through just helped me to stand in it.
Love that.
Yeah. My experience with love has been you start to gain respect for people, especially in long-term relationships. Because you understand now that, you really have to work on, merging those two worlds.
Yeah.
So it has been, to me, really good. And it has moments where it's really low, like real low. But I think I saw something recently that talk about, like, the what they call it, the heart monitor that
Yeah.
goes up and down. But if you
Right.
flatline, like,
That's dead.
That's dead.
Yeah.
So you got your highs and your lows, when it comes to love and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
I love that one.
yeah, so you just have to work at it because you don't wake up like that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work to sustain any like long-term relationship, right? It takes a lot of consciousness, thinking outside the box sometimes, because sometimes you got to separate yourself from actually what's happening and try to understand. I know a big thing for me too is actually studying sometimes where the noise coming from, because sometimes people just doing things almost like an app and they can't control it. But then when you
Right.
study the root of it, you start going back to like even like a parent, a grandparent, the relatives and all that. Generational stuff. You start to understand, and you start to understand who the person is, and you can look past some of it. But some of it sometimes is very difficult,
Right.
and you got to make like certain decisions. But love is very colorful.
Yeah.
Right? It's very colorful.
I mean, that's I think the human experience. Well, I was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, the human experience is the experience of ebbs and flows in connection with other people, especially in a romantic sense. Because, when you're connected to somebody, right, and you're feeling them, and especially if the connection is already transcended to that space where it's intimate, where it's physical, and you don't, that person, you're sharing that nakedness.
Right.
Both figuratively and literally, right? So you're sharing that. A person connected to you on a different level. They have an ability to press certain buttons that nobody at all on the planet could press. Not even your mother could press them button there that person could press, right? And
Because you care.
Yeah, man. So to kind of touch on Tiba's point, that's something that I kind of conceptualizing now. Like, when you really feel deeply for a person, and I guess all of the messages are the same, you can't even lose yourself in that. You have to kind of look at, how is this person impacting me? Some of the behaviors that they exhibit, where they're coming from, as opposed to just being reactionary. Because, sometimes, like you might be in a relationship and your girlfriend is accustomed to say a particular thing or move a particular way, and you react, and then it always leads to a fight. At some stage, especially if you're in love or you feel like you're in love, you want to be with this person, you got to take a step back. Because the reaction is an attempt, in my mind, to control them, control how they move. Why you got to keep doing that? You need to stop doing that, man. You notice that you're leading us to this place. Why you got to respond the way you're responding? Why you don't take a step back and realize that they are unable to change? So if you got the consciousness, because somebody got to steer the boat.
So that's what I'm saying, standing in love now, that's where all of that come from now. You check what I'm saying, being able to navigate through those situations, you check. But if me and you ain't thinking straight, then ain't gonna ever be a conclusion.
Right.
We ain't gonna ever find that balance. So somebody got to be that, you know what I mean? Most cases sometimes is the women are naturally more emotional, but still you still have times where men could be that emotion too, and women could steer the boat. But for the most part, I think that, as men, we need to really, like, as you say, assess everything. Go back to their grandparents, certain energies. You see where you see where the pattern comes from, and then you internalize it to where, okay, let me see, rather than running off on this lady or this individual, let me see how I could help. Let me see how I could shed light on her. If it's a woman, let me see how I could shed light on this dude. Because sometimes dude need guidance too. You check what I'm saying? And a lot of times... More time. And a lot of times women further in life than men. Sometimes...
Especially emotionally.
Exactly.
Emotionally, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the flip side of things, career-wise, sometimes that could be killing a man inside too. He ain't where he want to be in life. Now, sometimes a woman can't deal with that kind of pressure because when a man ain't where he want to be, he ain't the happiest.
Right.
So now, she know as a woman who could stand in love, would know how to navigate and help that man to get where he need to be. Or help him to see more about who he truly is on the inside rather than thinking by me ain't got this job, so me and this person, or da 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 da. So it goes both ways. You check
Love
what I'm
that.
saying? You got to stand up in low.
Yeah, I mean that goes both ways
Yeah.
because like there is sometimes this issue, especially with some women too as well, that there are people in general like what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah,
I
it's a big
never
thing.
looked at a relationship like that. Like I never looked at a girl and say, oh, like pick up based on what she could bring to the table.
Facts.
Right? Because even if let's say that she's making X amount of dollars and I'm making X amount of dollars, chances are that because of the person that I am, your dollars probably gonna be in your savings account.
Right.
But
But let me push back on that though.
Mhm.
So you said that you don't normally think of it, but I would argue that because of the type of person you are
Mhm.
and the type of person y'all are, y'all value different things to
Different
bring into
things.
a relationship.
Mhm.
So maybe she doesn't need to bring in a 5-figure salary to the relationship, but maybe she does need to bring in peacefulness and understanding.
That's a part.
You know what I'm
So that's
saying?
what I'm saying. So,
So it's different things that you
different
do
things.
value that you say, okay, no, for me now, that might not be the one deal breaker,
Yeah.
but this now is a really important part of it.
see, I was getting to that.
Okay.
Because I was saying that, you got some things that people look at, especially sometimes in the woman perspective, because sometimes they look at based on the history of like, a man being the provider, no women becoming
Right.
the provider, and something they think that having this job, making this amount of money, gonna make them high value to a guy. But
Right.
sometimes the guy just wants somebody who's peaceful, somebody who come and talk to and relax with in the night, do things with, like intimate things with that he don't want to do with anybody else.
Yeah, be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable with, you know what I mean? And that is sometimes like a lot of men, because like you said, if a man ain't doing what he feel like he should be doing, not in the position that he wants to be in,
He get frustrated.
he get frustrated because he feel like he can't provide.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little funny feeling, you know what I mean? And I remember like years ago, I've been through that,
Yeah.
where I wasn't in a position to provide for, like in a past relationship. And I almost was fasting for like weeks because I couldn't eat. I didn't feel good eating.
You're
Like, you know what I mean?
stressed
I was
out. Yeah,
stressed
stressed
out.
out.
When
Yeah,
you
you're
ain't
stressed
where
out.
you want to be, it's
Yeah.
pressure,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
trying, and you gotta be so conscious not to kind of project that on top of the
Yeah,
relationship, right?
for sure.
You know what I mean? But
sure.
But that's a crucial point too, that projection. Because sometimes you get into a relationship, right? And let's say, especially when the relationship is failing you, so the first year, and you see a partner behaving in certain ways, I think that is the most important time for us to be able to take a step back.
Yeah.
Any gender, man or woman, take a step back.
Right.
Because sometimes the demonstrations are the responses that you're getting from this person isn't really necessarily about you. It's something that they've been fighting within the past relationship for the last 8 years.
That's what I'm saying.
And they come into it now with the backpack on.
Yep.
And it's just like
A
unloading
lot of
on
baggage,
you.
lot
You
of
know what I
baggage,
mean?
full
So-
carry on.
Yeah, man. So the previous boyfriend ain't accustomed to washing the dishes, and that was a real
Sticking point,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a sticky point in the relationship. Now they come in, and the one day you're doing it all the time, but the one day you leave some dishes in the sink, she blow out.
Triggering
You're like,
them.
Whoa, what going on there? But yeah, that's a trigger point.
Yeah.
And sometimes we, especially for how I feel, is if you're standing in a masculine frame, from a stoic perspective, what I like to do, especially now, is I take a step back even from the reaction. When you behave a certain type of way, I just step back and look at it and say, yo, that's really born me? Where that coming from? Because
Yeah.
I don't feel like the response or the action merit that kind of response. That response a little bit more visceral, a little bit more deep
Yeah.
than what really going on here.
but you see, like it's like somebody step back sometimes, or they almost like they take the high horse in the argument. According to the other person, how they feel, like, could feel like you're being dismissive.
I was actually going to raise that point. That's a really good point.
Okay.
I agree with you. And I've actually been in situations where women have gotten more frustrated with me because I've taken a step back and said,
Facts.
okay, I don't want to deal with that right now. Let's come back to this when
Yeah.
we're,
Oh.
in a better space of mind.
I think a big
That
part
could
of
also
it,
be triggering for them.
I
as
think
well.
a big part of it is communication too.
For sure.
Even when you're stepping back, you gotta be able to communicate.
Yeah, I'm taking a step back. Let's come back to this in a
Yeah.
few minutes when we can have a proper conversation.
Like, and not just I'm taking a step back. Sometimes you have to preface it. So you gotta say, babe, listen, I think the response, like, heavy.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot going on here. I may really understand why. And I don't feel like we'll be able to have a conversation in this moment. So You're comfortable with us pausing right now?
Yeah.
Sako?
No.
No, but that's big though. That's big.
Yeah.
That's big. That's necessary.
That might be a good approach to you.
necessary.
But in their minds, like,
No, but
like, we gotta talk about
sometimes,
that
but
today.
you also have to bear in mind that people are evolutionary. So sometimes it might not work in that moment.
That's
what
But
I'm
if it's a
saying.
consistent practice, then they pick it up like,
Yeah.
okay, but yo, Zoe
For sure.
really carried the field.
Right.
But he
But
just
see,
want to
and
take a
that's
step back.
what you say. You got to stay in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
You got to stay in the heat. So
Yeah.
you got to be consistent.
Yeah,
a
you can't run
consistent
from the
practice.
heat.
But then, but here's the other thing, which is why human interaction is so heavy. Sometimes, right, being always the one to gotta be magnanimous and you know what I mean, hold the order.
Yeah.
Tiring.
Yo,
It's a lot.
but drop a sound on me the other day, right? He said, "Why? Sometimes man, I always want to be the designated driver."
You know what I mean?
Like, that's heavy. Because sometimes you ain't want
Yo.
to be.
Yeah, because sometimes
That's
you,
a bad.
yeah, you know what I mean. Imagine you're driving
I
cross
want to be
country.
petty too.
I want to enjoy the sights too. I want to be a little petty.
You
Yeah,
want to look left. You
wait,
want
yeah,
to look right.
right. You know what I mean? Man, enjoy things
Drink a
too.
beer.
You know what I mean?
What do you think, woman? What do you think the lady sing the song "Jesus Take the Wheel"? You know the time she want.
Bro,
You know what I mean?
It's a lot. It's a lot, bro. It's a lot.
So you gotta ask Joe. Sometimes when things going on, it'll be like, "Yo, Jesus, take the wheel."
Yeah, Father, just guide it,
Yeah,
man.
man, let us ease up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
drop
But
me hands.
Give guidance.
what I look at though, and this is a personal realization, so I'm not even talking from a position of like supreme consciousness. This is brand new, bro. What I realize is a lot of relationships fall apart not because of something big, but because of something small that's continued over a prolonged period.
Yeah, yeah.
And it creates a lot of resentment. And that
Yeah.
resentment stack up
Oh,
so much
man.
that it's like, yo, the dude hate she hate he. And it's like, yo, sometimes the smallest things and she watching you and you could tell. You ever look at a couple and maybe the boyfriend talking and the girlfriend just watching them like,
Yeah.
the disgusting
And
shit.
she, and she brain, she like, I can't believe you just said that.
Yo, why she even with he?
Yeah.
Like what, bro? What you even with she? You obviously don't like she. Like you hate she. That
You could
if we-
see it.
Yeah, man, you despise she. Y'all need to come out of that because somebody gonna kill somebody. You know what I mean? You gonna go left.
Yeah.
You must go left.
Yeah.
She gonna cheat on you and you're gonna get in your feet. But and so you come back down to the joke that Patrick made earlier because sometimes you're in those positions and it's difficult to extricate yourself
Yep.
because you're in love. You got so much. You know what I mean? There's so much little
Minutia.
threads
Small
tied
things.
together. Yeah, man, like, oh, yeah, we got shared bank account.
Yeah,
the youth them
boy.
in school. You know what I mean? We got this youth. We build this house and I paying half the rent or she paying half the rent. She the buy the groceries usually like, but how I gonna get out of this? Because now you're gonna consider if she moves out or if I move out, how I gonna deal with all the bills that we used to be
So let me
sharing?
ask you a question then. So you think that if you entertain in a relationship, no, as a older guy,
A
right?
big man.
a big man,
Yeah.
right?
Address the thing proper, big man.
You're supposed to enter a relationship almost with a sort of level of separation to things, just in case, like almost like you have like an exit strategy.
No, me personally don't believe that you should enter anything with
I agree.
Exit strategy.
yeah, with exit strategy because
That mean you don't fail.
Yeah, you don't got one foot out. Do that
that's
already.
it.
You
You're
done
setting up
ready.
the preconditions
Yeah.
for failure. What I do is I go in 100%, right? Well, I go in 90%. I keep back 10% for myself. Yeah, elder man tell me that time, like, don't give nobody 100% to you. Give them 90, keep the 10 for yourself so that you got something to build on if the 90 fail, right? So you just like live a function. But for me, I go in with the 90, full 90. I give you all, right? And I'm hopeful. All of my energy is poured into making this thing work. Because I'm somebody that function well with commitment. Like me really the type of guy who can bounce around and got 15 women and so that ain't really me gear. Because I so deep, I to communicate on such a cerebral level. You can't do that with everybody.
No.
Yeah, you can't.
So, and then I kind of sapiosexual to I like intelligence.
Yeah.
So if I could really reason with a daughter, yo, she got me. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
me and you could sit down and reason and you could give me some insight and make me think like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
a crazy. Yeah, man, I
Yeah.
hook. Right?
Different meds.
And then everybody you could do that with.
Yeah,
Sometimes
facts.
you meet a girl and, you know what I mean, the physical put together well. But when you reason with her, it's just like,
Yeah.
she almost draining your energy.
Bye.
So I don't necessarily go in with an exit in mind.
Yeah.
I think about how do I make this thing work.
Yeah.
But I am conscious enough to know
You could
how
go
I
in.
can navigate the exit if necessary.
You could go anywhere.
Yeah, I think at this stage now, where I reach at this stage is like, while I can't say I'm comfortable with the exit because the exit's always hard. When you care for somebody genuinely, you ain't want to leave them. You ain't want them to leave you.
For sure.
But I feel like, bro, if I working on myself enough, where I'm marketable, you know what I mean? Even in the relationship space, where I know, yo, if this thing end, I good. I Angie level. Me ain't even a little boy. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? while I nurture in this relationship, don't slip with me neither. Don't feel like you go compliment me a certain type of way.
Not at all.
Yeah, I can make a step.
I still got me heights.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So,
yeah.
That's always the level that I am right now. I love you for real, and I gonna give you 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But don't tell yourself you're gonna make certain plays that I can't countenance. Because if you move a certain type of way, that mean like I'm willing to end it too. And that's the position I feel like you need
for me, how deep I am into a relationship is not a deterrent on ending the relationship for me. If things ain't working out, obviously, you know, I would be more willing to work on a long-term relationship than something that I just catch the other day.
Right.
But at the same time, everything has limits to it. So if the relationship is no longer serving me, or worse yet, if it's hurting me, then I have a responsibility to myself and to the other person in the long run to remove myself from that situation in as best a way possible. And I wouldn't let something like, you know, a bank account or whatever be
and not even a wedding ring.
No, and the thing is too, like, I see so many people in relationships who got married at a point where that was something that one of them wanted and not both.
What, marriage?
The marriage.
Okay.
And that actually creates a lot of resentment down the line for them.
Because they feel trapped.
But at the same time, the marriage almost make them feel like they can't get out of it, you know? When really and truly, like, you should always feel like you're in a position where if it's not working for you, then, you know, you're doing something different. Because it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the other person for you to be in a situation that you no longer enjoy or want to be in.
Well, to that point though, sometimes I feel like some people agree to marriage because somehow within our society, marriage has become a crutch.
Marriage is a safe space right now.
It has the illusion of a safe space.
Well, yeah.
Because marriage ain't really a safe space. I think a relationship is a marriage.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the contract. The marriage where you go and you do the whole pam pageantry thing, that really for the woman, you know. Because one man really into wedding like that. May really find a man who into wedding
like a couple of them like
who into wedding
yeah,
like
like
that.
a good that's good ceremony.
There's some man into it.
Definitely. But I agree with what you were saying about safe space too, because correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I get from what you're saying there is like safe space in terms of people tend to relax in marriages and kind of pull it back from being their best selves because they're married now.
Not even that.
Okay.
I just thinking based on a lot of people get married
for security. Yeah.
And that's just what you're talking about when I say safe space, meaning that people prefer to like, okay, let me just get married with this person because I got 50 million and they got 100 million. We put that together. Like, people are just calling figures.
Yeah.
People be looking at things like that, like, okay, let me get married to this person because, well, me and them been together so long. The thing about it, we got all these things here, you know, we got kids. We could put these assets together. People get married like that now.
Yeah.
I don't.
Business
maybe they have
decisions.
a few people that get married because they're truly in love with somebody, and that's the person who they really see. You know what I mean? Living out their days with.
Yeah.
But I got other people getting married just because of the financial aspect of things.
And some people get married because they feel like a marriage would create a salve or a band-aid for a lot of the red flags.
It's not gonna happen.
Or a lot of the
It's not
toxic
gonna happen.
stuff that happen in a
That's
relationship.
not gonna happen.
Like me and you arguing all the time, or you cheat on me a couple of times. Oh, you need to marry me.
Yeah.
Okay. You get married.
Yeah.
So you feel like because he's your husband now and he stopped cheating.
Yeah.
No, man. So
That
you
change.
hurt now even more because now you look more like a clown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
And I
feel-
mean, some people, not to cut you out, but some people too, is a desire as well. Like, you could be with somebody, some women.
for
like,
social status.
Yeah, but do that. Like, they would be in a relationship for a long time, but because that guy might have been treating them well, right? And because he didn't want to get married, he have different views on marriage.
Yeah.
He ends the relationship, then she turns around, and as soon as she ends the relationship, she gets with somebody, and within a year, gets married.
Yeah.
And then that kind of fizzles out because it was just all about the
marriage.
It's all about
marriage.
the hype.
It was all about that.
And the recent marriage is garbage.
As I tell people all the time, a wedding is one day.
It's one day.
Bye.
It's gonna come and go.
That day is just 24 hours, a half a day, how long this ceremony is for, honeymoon in the night, honeymoon for the week, if anything, but then after that, it's back to reality.
Stay alive after that.
Yeah, I think wanting to be married is a good thing. Like,
Nothing wrong
because-
with that at all.
Yeah, I think it represents a depth of connection.
But
And
married
I
up
always say, like, as man, me personally, if I were ever to get married, when I do get married, I would never cheat. Never ever, bro. Because that's a different level of commitment now. Like, I don't make that step and make that push. If I feel like I still kind of uncertain about whether or not I want to settle here, me ain't gonna get married.
I feel you.
And I think people, I have this argument all the time about like honeymoon phases and stuff like that. And I say people, when you enter a relationship, right, you actually gone from the honeymoon, hot and cold period. It's almost you gone into 4 seasons. Some days gonna be like summer. Some days gonna be like autumn.
Yeah.
Some days gonna be cold, the coldest winter. But then there's spring right around the corner. Right. And if you can understand that, you could, balance on the relationship like on a long term status. Cause you got to go through these things all the time and understand when they're coming up and when to shift.
Right.
But it's so hard sometimes to do in the moment.
I trust me, marriage don't fix nothing that's internal in a person, in an individual or in a couple. Like, is up to both parties. It's up to that individual to change their mindset, their outlook, their attitude. You know what I mean?
I think what's supposed to happen is, so back to the concept of the ebbs and flows. I think when you're looking at any relationship, so it's not even just the intimate side. I think when you're looking at any relationship as a human being, you're supposed to play it based on the 80-20 rule. So if 80% of the relationship is healthy and comfortable, you feel good in that space, and 20% is, toxic or whatever it is going on, then that's a relationship you can rock with, because you're going to never find perfection.
But you see, that's from a very masculine point of view. Because
what I mean? Because
women, right?
I agree with that.
Women, we look at that as settling.
Yeah.
Men, we see it as that's doable.
Yeah.
But women, we look at that as settling.
I think especially in society, a lot of the conversation is around trying to, I think around the conversation is around like wanting to have what is in their mind a perfect relationship. Not a 80-20 like give some take some kind of vibe.
100%.
Yeah, and I mean that's fair. I would never wrong anybody for wanting the best for themselves. I think we all deserve happiness, and we deserve the most amount of love that we can get. But as Lonzo was saying, no situation is perfect. Everything has ebbs and flows. You use the metaphor of the 4 seasons just now, which I think is a really good one as well. Yeah. So I think we have to be optimistic but also realistic in our relationships.
Yeah,
balance.
I think one of the major influences of relationships and a lot of women, especially mindset, is social media. There's a lot of conversation out there right now. Or if I see one red flag, I gone.
Yeah.
If I see one this, I mean, putting up in a man who ain't doing this or who ain't doing that, then you don't have to. But that's something you might not got no man at all for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but outside of that, you're not having to. What are your red flags?
But that's what I'm saying.
What are you doing wrong? Because it's so difficult for us as human beings to kind of look at ourselves and see what we're doing.
Self-awareness.
But a lot of people don't look within themselves. People just always think that someone else has to fix something for them, has to fix their mindset. Somebody have to do this so I can remain happy.
Yeah.
Somebody got...
Be this for me. You have to be this for me. Yeah, so, and I think a lot of it is trying to find happiness externally, find happiness in another person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yo, my happiness isn't really based on anybody externally,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I am me. I don't do me. I grind and I pursuing whatever my dreams are. And in your personal relationship, your intimate relationship, you're supposed to find peace. You're
but let me pose a question to
a level
you guys,
of comfort.
right? I want to pose a question because we said that marriage isn't something that could fix things or shouldn't. It necessarily might not fix everything for you, and maybe even having like a family and stuff might not fix everything for you. But there is some instances, right? And I wonder if y'all agree on that sometimes you might see a guy and he might have been banging around doing his thing, but then when he get a child, it kind of settles him right down, right? And it can inspire him even to take life a little bit more serious, right? Or even you might find some guys, even as they get married, they kind of settle down the meds a little bit. So you agree that there might be instances of that as well?
Yeah, well, that's a whole different scenario in terms of the individual. But we're talking about like fixing things from a man and a woman perspective.
Generally.
From like them moving from arguments, they married now, everything crystal clean. Nah, like that ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? If somebody is toxic before you got married to them, they're gonna be toxic after you get married.
Even more
probably
toxic.
even more now.
Because they now don't fear losing you.
Exactly.
Right? They feel like, no, this commitment me be lucky.
Yeah.
So I can move however I want.
Not only that, you married to me, so that means you're okay
Yeah,
with me being toxic.
Yeah.
same thing. A marriage is the okay
You don't
of
sign
everything.
off on that.
Possibly.
Literally.
But
And I mean, marriage also brings a sense of obligation. You get me? So you're obligated to stay around. You're obligated to do these things. Whereas
Based on what I said, right?
yeah, man. When you was my girlfriend, you ain't really obligated. But
Right.
now you're my wife. You carry my last name. How you mean? You got to cook for me. You're supposed to do these things. So I think it's just about, again, recognizing, you know what I mean, what the balance is. And the balance isn't 50-50 in terms of a relationship. The balance is 80-20. So you make allowances for that 20% or that person and the idiosyncrasies and whatever it is that don't make you really feel the best.
Yeah.
And then the 80% supposed to be, okay, yeah, this person good with money. If that's one of your high values. So if they're matching most of your values in that way, then that's something you could build on. So you need a foundation.
I think for me now, a lot on like a general outlook, I think that getting somebody that's compatible is a major thing right now. There's somebody that's compatible with you, meaning that they might not like football, you might like football, they might not like football, but compatible enough to say, okay, we can sit down and have a conversation about things that we don't like and things that we like and what we could work on. Okay, you tell me I was going to fix this last week, but I see it happen again today. Oh, sorry, it's a habit. I'm trying harder, just give me some time. Like, compatible in that sense of we're going to try to make it work as best as possible.
You know, I saw an image recently. You would say a sharpener and a pencil is compatible, right? And a bolt and a nut is compatible, right?
They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand, right? But I saw this image recently where there was a sharpener working with, I think, a bolt, and the nut was working with the pencil, right? And the thing was saying that even though these things compatible with each other, there's a chance that, you know, the sharpener would have just keep going in with the pencil, and the bolt would have been held in place by the nut, right? So he was saying that even though sometimes you kind of have to look deeper still, past the compatibility thing to see if you could really, because sometimes you say people evolve. So you might not be compatible, like you said, 5 years from now.
No, it works on an evolving scale.
Yeah.
It's not static. Compatibility isn't static.
Because you might have been compatible 5 years ago,
Right.
but
Right.
you might not have been 5 years ago. Because some
No,
people, break up and they get back better in like years and get back together.
And I think any healthy relationship is underpinned by two things: communication and consciousness.
Your personal, your personal consciousness.
If you're conscious, if both persons are conscious, so they could recognize when they're doing something that make the partner unhappy.
Something wrong.
Self-awareness.
Yeah. So if you have that self-awareness, okay, you're straight. But if you also need to be able to articulate where you feel like you're going wrong, because sometimes I might be saying, yo, you keep doing this, and I don't like it, right? But your response, so your communication is, oh, you're always pressuring me, or oh, this, or whatever it is, as opposed to, I register that. So consciousness is the registering that you're wrong, and then articulating that by what really happening is, my mother them used to do this all the time, and for me, kind of normal. So entering this space with you, I seeing that it's something that you don't really do. You come from a family that don't really do that, and I trying to make the adjustment, like Zoe was saying. I trying to make the adjustment, so just bear with me. Because sometimes it's even something as simple as communication. Like a lot of families that communicate argumentatively, it's shouting and back and forth. But I come from a space where we sit down and we reason, like, what you do that?
Stern.
Yeah, and it's a back and forth, as opposed to the shouting and talking over each other. But that's their natural state. They're accustomed to doing that.
Yes. And that touching on point, because for you, when you look at that, it could look disrespectful. Yeah. But for that person, it's not disrespectful at all. It's almost like expressing myself disrespect.
Yeah. Normal, bro. And that could put you deep in your feelings because it's like they refuse to hear you. You're trying to communicate and
facts.
They ain't listening. They're just talking over you. Oh, no, remember you said it's like, weird. You're going to listen to me or what?
Right. No.
Right? So sometimes it's, you know what I mean? And it's these little things, it's these little points of reference that you just have to kind of look at and say like, okay, you're incapable of doing this thing. Right? Let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for me. Just going back to, because since Atiba make a point is a couple minutes ago about compatibility and like whether or not having a marriage or having a kid can really change things within you, and stuff like that. And for me, and Zoo make a good point that if you're a toxic person, you're gonna carry that into a marriage. But I think the idea of wanting to try and be better is a huge thing. And that's the third thing that I would add to what Lonzo was saying about the essentials of a relationship. Yeah. The communication, yes. The self-awareness, absolutely. But the third thing I would add is the willingness to try and be better the next day or the next time. Because you could be self-aware and you could be communicative because you be stubborn.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're too stubborn for your own good, or the other person is too stubborn for their own good, you ain't gonna be making progress. And don't matter how communicative you are, you're going to still be running into that same problem all the time because that person is unwilling to make the changes, because you cannot change anybody.
No.
We cannot change any other person in a relationship. The only person that could change them is themselves.
Yeah. And you're going to focus on the things you got influence over.
Right.
Like things like maybe showing up on time, making sure everything run smoothly, in terms of the family structure and stuff like that. But you really don't have control of what nobody feels and think per se.
Right.
You could influence it, but it's kind of...
It's up to them at the end of the day.
To make that decision.
Final decision.
To kind of know like where the perceptions are and stuff like that and how they move forward.
Yeah. Relationships just heavy, man. Like, and we've been conditioned to enter relationships frivolously. Like, we're just sliding into relationships, not even realizing that, this is another human being you're dealing with.
Yeah. As you say, fall into them, not stand in them.
But I'd always advise people, like, when you go through your disputes, disagreements and stuff like that, that is pretty normal. And for some people out there, they say that's kind of healthy. But the unhealthy part is really if it starts to get disrespectful. That's when you got to take a different look at things and have a different conversation.
Here's the crazy thing, though, because I've had this experience. I've been in relationship where we having a disagreement, and I said like, but why we doing this right now? And they said, well, we ain't supposed to fight. I know we ain't supposed to fight. We're supposed to have hard conversations, right? We can have disputes.
Yeah.
But I think
supposed to is a tough word there. Can't be supposed to. Sometimes it can happen, but you can't say supposed to.
But again, to maybe that person might have been like them be supposed to fight, but maybe they really mean we're supposed to have hard conversations.
Right.
But
that's what I mean. But it come out as we supposed to fight. Yeah.
And how they use words, you could depending on who you are, but kind of.
I think it's a little bit more than that, because it's the representation of fight. What does fight mean for you?
Right.
Because fight might be that same shouting back and forth, and for me it's just like, I'm really comfortable with this. Because for me, right, and one of my biggest problems, and I think one of the reasons why I am so cerebral and so conscious of things right now, is I got issue with forgiveness. Like I don't really play for too long. You know what I mean? If you do something on a repeated basis, I don't half. I all the way off to.
Okay, but I want to touch on something that you said though, in terms of it's difficult, right? Because it's almost like sometimes you want sometimes want people to address them in a particular way. And if it's not done in that particular way, then it's a problem.
They can't accept it.
So it's a little bit of tweaking to understand like who you're talking to.
Right.
And then say, okay, then if you driving, you say, okay, I understand. Like this ain't nothing personal. This is how that person kind of communicates this. And even though it feels disgusting, it's like, okay, let me just see where it goes until I forget disrespectful. Because I think
a big part of it is looking at the underlying meaning, like what I mean when they're saying certain things, right? But for me, a fight is circular. A fight is weighing gain to no finish line at all. Ain't nobody trying to understand nothing, because I fixated in my point and you fixated in your point, so both of us got swords of ignorance just clashing.
Yeah, that's when it boils into like a being right and wrong versus just the truth.
And that is what I don't want.
Because what I don't like in terms of like some arguments that you might have is some people easily ignore the truth and just focus on being right or wrong. But the truth is like this right here is a solid piece.
Right.
This is a real issue. Yeah. And we could decide on this. But if you're back against the wall, you might go and deflect into other things that don't even match up to this core thing.
Right.
So then that's when the fight is like right or wrong versus the truth, which is right here. And it's simple that way, but a lot of people don't really look at it in that way.
But going back to the original thing we were talking about with fragments of love and the conversation around what that means, fragments of love. I think in terms of we discussing it and stuff like that, like these things are all encapsulated within that concept of fragments of love.
That's what we're getting next week.
That's why we're really excited about the show. Zoe and I are very excited about the show, because it's not just a great night of art and, artistry, which it will be. But in addition to that, it's also allowing people to really go a step deeper and be like, what are my human interactions like?
Yeah.
What are my relationships like? What are my fragments of love like? And for me, that's just as exciting as the idea of people coming in and hearing bars and poetry and music and stuff like that.
Yeah, looking at it, it almost sounds as if like I expecting I'm not gonna be there, sadly. But
You're on the walk.
on the walk train. But it's almost like this sounds like interludes and snippets of, like it's not gonna be like straight performances. It's gonna be like interludes and conversations,
stories, experiences,
Nice.
all kind of things.
Sounding good.
It's gonna be a good energy, definitely.
So let's plug it one more time.
Yeah, Fragments of Love acoustic night, the 12th February. Come out.
Eco
enjoy
Park.
Eco Park. Enjoy the vibe. As we said before, it's not just about the music. It's just about that interaction. It's about that coming out and looking sexy, coming out and experiencing a whole different type of meditation, other than fetes and everything. This is a whole different experience. So you don't want to miss this. It's $85. You could get the tickets at the gas station on the top of 4th Street, Central Gas Station, on JAD, or you could hit me up directly in my DM. Let me know you need a ticket, whatever the case may be, whatever you're comfortable with. And
We got you sorted.
Yeah, you're solid.
Is a social afterwards?
Yeah, it's a social afterwards. We're gonna have a little social, but we're gonna be going to last lap to check out the Super Bowl, 'cause it's gonna be finished around
4
that time.
p.m. directly into the Super Bowl. Super Bowl just starting as we done, and we go watch in Super Bowl and
Nice.
Yeah, so we're gonna
enjoy ourselves.
that's the energy, man. So after we're going to last lap, and that's where we're gonna, just get into the Super Bowl and what's not.
That's a vibe. That's a vibe.
Yeah, watching Super Bowl.
No,
and
who's playing? I don't get
Chiefs and Eagles.
Okay.
But crazy thing is, this Fragments of Love conversation brings us all the way to the end of the show.
I know. It's too deep.
Yeah, man, we
It's
might
gonna be here all night, King.
Yeah, we might gotta talk about love again.
After
the show.
But I mean, to everybody that stepped in, you've been listening to the He Nuh Show on WINN Media 98.9 and Big Vibes, big vibes. The show is sponsored by the Taiwanese Technical Mission. So salute to the Taiwanese Technical Mission for recognizing the depth of conversation that we've been having.
Yeah, man,
So
big them up.
Give thanks.
Yeah.
to everybody,
The Taiwan
to everybody that's been tapped in, thank you for tapping into this amazing conversation with Zoo and Patrick. Patrick has a body of work out right now called Human Nature, so tap in.
Give thanks.
And you've been listening to the He Nuh Show. To everybody that's listening, enjoy your upcoming week and big respect. Be sure to tune in next week. Good night.
The Taiwan Technical Mission, in collaboration with the Department of Environment, continues to seek the partnership of the public in this recycling initiative. Collect and bring your plastic bottles, metal and aluminum cans at any of our collection points in St. Kitts and Nevis. In St. Kitts, visit us at Buckley's across the road from Best Buy supermarket, in Dieppe Bay on the lawn westward of the football playing field, and in the vicinity of Connery Roundabout. In Nevis, the collection points are Old Artisan Village, Big Six, Delta Petroleum, and X-Petrol. Do visit our Facebook and Instagram pages called Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis and Department of Environment, St. Kitts, for more information on the collection schedule for these recycling points. In St. Kitts, you can call the Department of Environment at 466-8535, and for Nevis, call Nevis Solid Waste Management at 869-469-1762. Let's recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis as we work towards establishing a more friendly place.